our desire is not to shelter our kids, but in a way it is. It's our job.
It's to guard them. It's to guard and protect them.
It is. Hey y'all, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm really excited about today's episode. I feel like it's getting harder than ever before to raise like families, Christian families, the next generation of believers, and I feel like it's for reasons that are obvious and also reasons that may not be so obvious. So today we're going to talk about our personal struggles of what we're going through right now and trying to raise a family of believers, and talk about the reasons that we think the cause of it. We're going to talk about everything from raising, like what our school options are. We're trying to work through that, and what it's like trying to raise our kids in light of even just, we're going to hit on the topic, the LQBTQIA community, what we're doing with that, all of those things. So we're going to cover all that today. My name is Dela, by the way. This is my husband, Meyer, if it's your first time here. The people going to get used to you being on the podcast.
I guess so.
We're out of football season. He's a football coach, and so we're kind of enjoying this time together, and we get to shoot more videos together. I like it too.
No, I like it too.
Okay, so right off the bat, something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is with my parents, like when they're at our house hanging out with us and stuff. I think that the lack of generational living is a huge reason why it's hard to raise a Christian family, and a huge reason why so many kids are leaving the faith. Yeah. And I think that's massive. And I think that for us, we're trying to, I want my parents to be by me. Meyer does too. And we just have this dream of successfully doing multi-generational living, because that's huge. And it's not even just that they going to be doing a lot of the manual labor and stuff like that, but it's just like, I realize too, it's extra eyes. It's extra eyes on your kids. It's extra eyes on, not that we ain't trying to stalk them or anything like that, but it's extra discernment in the room, that can say, hey, you might want to check on this, or you might want to look at this. So I think that's a huge reason.
Inflation also is another issue. Yeah. Then the money aspect of inflation is creating that tension between trying to raise our kids the way that we desire.
The things that we talk about in this podcast is just how we feel convicted to raise our family. I feel like you have to follow the conviction of the Holy Spirit and how to raise your family. But I do feel like with things being expensive, you almost have to depend on society to help you raise your kids, because you have to work so much, to your point. Yes. Think about the structure. And I was listening to this podcast, and the lady was saying how women working outside of the home is a social experiment. Like women, I love the way she said it, women not being the center of the home. Because I believe you can work outside the home, and you can, or work from home, or have your own business, whatever, and still be the center of your home. And she was saying women not being the center of their home is a social experiment because it's still relatively new in our society. And she was arguing that is contributing to the suicide rates and the raise in crime and stuff. So I think, to your point, yes, inflation is huge. And we literally made that video about kids not being expensive, or kids making you broke. I don't know if we made it or I made it.
Yeah, I think we did it together.
Okay, so then inflation hit, and I'm like, dang, now I got to put my foot in my mouth because it is so expensive.
But it's how you look at it.
They're as expensive as you want them to be. That's what I heard someone say. But I would say even just the juggling act of, how do I both have these children and provide for these children? You know what I mean? That's making it very difficult. And that breaks my heart when someone can't make a decision that's best for raising their family and keeping their kids in the faith because of money alone. That is almost, that I have a righteous anger against that. You know what I mean? But I feel like those are a few of the biggest things right now making it hard. And I think, okay, here's what I think the biggest issue is. The morality of society just in general is gone.
It's going downhill.
Fast.
It's so fast. I think it's the speed of how fast people are becoming less moral. That's what's hard. It's like,
we're not talking about Christian. We're talking about
I'm not even talking about
moral. Where are your morals?
Christian beliefs. Yes. I'm talking about open the door for somebody, saying hello, not being rude.
About that? I'm talking. You're right. It starts with that, and we let that go. But I'm talking about what people think is humane now is completely gone left. You know what I mean?
Literally, I was talking to my father-in-law yesterday about, I was just walking, it was two places that I went. And I noticed the people that was walking beside me, they're walking we were walking past each other. It was like they was walking so close to me that they wanted to bump me. They wanted to like brush shoulders. I'm like, all right, let me intentionally move to the left.
Yeah.
If I didn't intentionally move over, I literally would have ran into them.
Or they could have not been thinking about you at all.
True.
That's another like fall of morality or society to me, is that other people don't even exist in our worlds anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm not one of those people that feel like you should be forced to smile at somebody. Like I hate when people do that to me. Good morning. And you know, like I got all these kids. I don't really want to say good morning to you right now, but I am one that like, I don't know, we're humans. Like I still believe in humanity. Like I still believe we should, like old people, we should help them. I still believe,
that's true.
And that's just like, you can just do what you want. Like, you know what I mean? And that I'm having a hard time adjusting to that. And that's making it very, very challenging to raise kids. Because I'm over here preaching and teaching my kids, no, like, let that person go first.
Yeah.
Hold the door when somebody got groceries and they, like, literally working my tail off trying to raise a good human.
Yeah.
And that don't even matter no more in society. So then you feel like, what's the point? And which I'm going to still do that because I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? But you do start to feel like, what's the good point?
It's hard.
The hardest thing that we're facing right now, I'm just going to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off, is... which some of y'all like, girl, that ain't real problems. But I feel this deep conviction to figure this out is how we are going to school our children. And this is like a big conversation for every, like people argue back and forth. And it's never been a point of argument for us because I really feel like with school, I've been sitting like this the whole time. I hope my head hasn't been chopped off. But with school, it really is... Okay, when it comes to being a believer, there's nothing in the Bible that says that you should school your kids a certain way. And by school, I mean like where they're going to go to school. And I think some believers out here, they're so like, whatever, they have such an agenda that they feel like, they want you to feel like there's only one Christian way to raise your kids. And I don't hold that belief system. But I think the issue for us is that where we live, we have too many good options.
It's good public schools, good charter, and by good,
that part,
good is so relative or subjective. So by good, I mean like, okay, they have a good rating,
which is not enough for us. A good rating is not enough for us.
Like, or it's like, okay, the stigma of the district or the stigma of the school is good.
The reputation,
or they have good athletics,
strong.
Or they have etc. So
all of that, we have access to all of that.
Yeah, it's various options or schools that we could go to.
So we have good public schools. We have some of the best private schools in the area. I feel like in the nation, we have some of the best private schools in our area. We have because for me the biggest thing is flex schooling is what I'm looking into now, because you're not going to get my money just because you slap a cross on your building and your tuition is $30,000 a year. First of all, you're not getting my money because it's $30,000 a year. But I think my deepest conviction right now when it comes to our kids is that I don't know that my kids need to be in school 40 hours a week. Like a full-time job. I struggle with that. I think for me that's my biggest, because I don't hold the belief that if you go to private school you're going to be saved because you're going to a private Christian school. I believe actually quite the opposite if you're not careful, because it's drugs at Christian private schools.
I mean, and there's drugs everywhere.
There's drugs everywhere.
It's just like,
but people try to make it seem.
I'm a teacher.
Oh, that's another perspective we have. Myra's a public school teacher. Enlighten us.
Yeah, so it's
because in the Christian, here's why I say enlighten us. Because here's another part. I feel like in the Christian community, sometimes intentional parenting Christian community, sometimes we can make public school seem like a big, bad, scary place where all these things are happening that aren't happening in the Christian private school sector. That's what I'll say. So what were you about to say about
I guess I have 2 points. Yes, I'm gonna work at a traditional public school, but you work for that, why would you want to send your kids to a school that's only 2-3 days a week? Because there's a flaw in the system.
Okay, so you see the flaw.
So there's a flaw in the system, right? Because a lot of time is like empty time that we gotta like try to fill. And if you go to school 2-3 days a week, it's gonna be less empty time or no empty time at all. So
you do feel like there's empty time that is being wasted?
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't know if it was just because of I am a budgeting like like I'm kind of not budgeting, like when it comes to time budgeting, like I don't waste time. And so I'm like, Dela, you're probably being dramatic, but so you do feel like there's a lot of dead space time.
It's like dead space time that we have to
put some BS activity.
Yes, versus like, or we aren't allowed to like, all right, I really want to master, I want these kids to master this skill or really master this information, but it's like, all right, we gotta keep going along. If we don't keep going along, then it's like, hey, why aren't you on your scope and sequence? Why aren't you on pace?
Everybody's following rules just because. And that is almost me as an 8 on the Enneagram, or like, and I know we ain't supposed to do Enneagram no more, but I'm just saying, like, as someone who really questions everything, I'm like, why are we still doing this years later? And what is going to have to happen for us to realize that we are off course? And you're just doing it because you have to do it, because you have to get this check. You got to do it. And I'm like, somebody needs to stop and say why and how.
Yeah, it's a systemic issue. So it's not just
that's true.
one district or
one school,
one state, or
schools in the hood.
Yeah, it's systemic.
Schools. Yes, you're right.
But man, I forgot the other point.
I'm sorry. Well, I was talking about too how like public school isn't inherently worse than
true.
Christians. So I don't know if that's where you're going.
Because people assume that, okay, you drop your kid off at a public school, it's gonna be all these bad influences. Like, most of the students there are not bad kids. All right, so it's not like 50%. No, seriously,
you're right.
50% of the students are involved in drugs or trying to fight and trying to have sex in the bathroom.
Yeah, that's
not.
That's true.
That's not true. So I think it's based upon how you raise your kids and what's best for your family. So for public school, may be better for some people because of their job, is restrictions. Like, their job doesn't allow them to raise their kids.
Well, okay, hold on. Let's back up. A lot is being said. Because I think for me, too, this is going to be a longer conversation because this is only one point. But man, what was I going to say? You had said something. Okay, yeah. So studies show, I don't have the stats in front of me, but the number one contributing factor to how your kids come out is not necessarily what way of schooling you choose. It's parental support. But then my pushback to that would be, how can I support as a parent when you have my kids 40 hours a week? When they get home, they're exhausted. I'm getting them at the worst part of their day, which is why we pulled our kids out of daycare, because I was like, I refuse. The only time I see my toddler is when they're stressed, tired, and I don't want anything to do with that. So now here we are facing that crossroad as parents of elementary age students, and it's like, parental support. And what I'm reflecting on is, what do I want that parental support to look like? Yeah. Because when they come home, they've been there for 40 hours a week, but I'm still having to teach my kid how to read. Which is fine, because I don't think no teacher should be able to work magic with 25 students and you're going to make sure everybody know how to read. I don't believe that either. I'm not pointing the finger. Right. And so, just so y'all know, our kids are in public school right now. We tried public, charter. For pre-K, we did like a Mother's Day out, so that was really like the hybrid level. And so what kind of we're trying to work through, and maybe y'all can even help us in the comments, we're trying to work through, here are our options for next year. Well, here are the options available to us. We have a university model school, which is amazing. We love it. It's 2 days a week, but the tuition is about $7,000, which is very reasonable for school. And then we have another university model that's not accredited, which we don't care about accredited. Means nothing to us. And it's cheaper. It's a little like $3,000. I'm giving way too many details, but it's about $3,000 a month. And then, and I'm doing this because I hope you're not getting annoyed. I hope this is helping you, because this is something I've been struggling with that I do not hear enough talked about in the Christian community. When school, to me, is a huge part of how you're raising your kids and how you're going to encourage them to keep the faith, right? Yeah. And so the $3,000, and then there's 2 charters. One charter is, there's 2 different charters. One is the traditional setting, but it would... it's not as good of rating as the public school that we are sending our kids to now. And I say rating because what is that stuff even? Okay, I finally got to a point where I'm confident enough as a mom to be like, you know what? I actually don't care if the school has a lower rating if I feel better in the building and I feel like they're more supported. Yeah. And so this charter school was actually founded by Christians who are going through the books and the curriculum and all that stuff, which is another huge reason why people are pulling their kids out of public school, because they believe that they could be teaching them things and putting books in the library that are sick, which I think is stupid. That's another thing why you got to pray and discern and ask the Lord, because also some public schools are not doing that. Where we live is red. voting wise, and they not
Yeah.
playing that. Like,
Yeah.
they just not. And so, you just can't look at social media and be running and making decisions. The other option is a charter school, and charter means that they're free. There's no tuition to them, and they're pretty much public, but they have just a different way of doing things, right?
Kids have to apply. And
it's about room, and they can kick kids out, things like
different. It's different.
So the other charter school, the cool thing about that one is that it is kind of university model. The kids would get out at 2:00 versus 3:30, which I like, and they go later too, so the mornings would be slower. Y'all getting out of the house, and another reason why this conversation is even coming up, I think it's one thing to go through, because people are quick to say, well, we all did it, the whole hustle of traditional school, but I'm like, one, did you have 4 kids? Because when you add a bunch of kids to the mix, it's a whole nother level of stress of getting everybody out of the house. Someone even commented, they were like, I'm not trying to be rude, which y'all don't ever have to tell me you're trying to be rude. I appreciate, because I know my community is very loving and respectful. She was like, have you ever considered homeschool? It's easier with large families, and she has a point.
I can see that.
Yeah, like the stress, I can see that part. I can see the stress being higher too, but so there's that. So we have the 2 university models, one accredited and one non-accredited, one more expensive than the other. We also have 4 children, so I'm always thinking through, at the highest point of tuition, what's going to be coming out of our bank account,
what's going to be required to send them to school.
Because also, like, and y'all can maybe help me with this in the comments, my poverty mindset, that I've been, doing all the work. I'm not saying I have a poverty mindset, but I do feel like some of the fear of paying tuition stems from a poverty mindset.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's those, the more expensive one, the cheaper one, and then the 2 charters. One is more diverse. That's another issue, is that this plethora of schooling options does not always lend to our people being there, and so it is very important for me that our kids are at school. That's important for you.
Well, yes, it's very important. That look like them.
And I would love for them to have educators that look like them.
Or there's not just one group of people,
that
because
dominates.
that's not realistic in life. And if you're setting up your life to only be around a certain group of people, like, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Well, for a huge culture shock too.
Yes.
And even just our people, like, we're not really interested in sitting. If they want to go to all black college, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
But really, just for me personally, how I want to raise my kids, I'm not also interested in them being in an all black school environment. So anyways, we're tackling it a lot. But so there's that, the 2 charters. And then another option is like this school that is 4 days a week, but it's like very much like you learn from the environment and Charlotte Mason schooling, and you learn to mastery, which I really love. So they don't have to keep going. They're also not accredited because they have that schooling method. It's 4 days a week, but it's very expensive. I think those are the only options. There's 5 of them. And so can y'all imagine our heads are spinning? No, the other option is homeschool, and the other option is keep them at the local public school where they are. That's 7 options that we're going to have to make a diagram on and figure out, because the money thing is too, my kids like to travel, and I want my kids to be able to travel.
Yeah.
And y'all, we got 4 kids. And so plane tickets alone to get everybody where we got to go, that's somebody's tuition for the year. And so then I have to ask myself, what's more important for me, for them to see the world, or for them to go to school where I think is best for them? You know what I mean? Those are hard. Those are hard questions to answer.
Yeah.
But they're important because they're there so much. And you may be saying, okay, well, what about homeschool? That's like free, and you know what I mean? I do not have the capacity to fully homeschool my children right now. And I want to give you permission as a believer. If that is where you are right now, that is okay. I work full time. I'm building a business. We're building another business. And I don't, to keep it real, just reflecting on even the university model methods where I would be teaching the kids at home a few days a week. Those aren't completely off the table, but I don't know that it's good in this season. I was thinking about it. I don't know that I want to teach my kids ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. I think that the only thing I want to teach my kids about the Lord, and I want to teach them about their calling and entrepreneurship. That's about all I want to do. And life skills. I love teaching my kids life skills.
Yeah.
But the letter sounds, I don't know the letter sounds. That's part of the issue. I just don't. And I'm not the best speller. And I'm just like, and I know I can unschool my kids. Listen, I think there's so much value in unschooling. I think that if I was going to unschool my kids, where I take them out, there's no formal curriculum or anything like that, I think that I would have to not be stuck to my desk, and they would have to be helping us literally run our business. Then I feel like you're being unschooled, because then there are things every day that you're getting up and you're doing. Because I think the myth sometimes in the unschooled community, sometimes I'm not making a general statement, and people who are homeschooling, they're like, well, really, you just can do what you want. You can. But the problem is that individual is going to have to be raised to be a productive person in society.
True.
And for me personally, I want my kids to know how to produce. I want my kids to know how to work within in deadlines, and I want them to be someone who is a person of their word. And that's hard to do when they think that they can just get up when they want and learn from the world.
And say if you even want to go extreme, this is extreme. Let's say, you know what, I'm just going to live off the land. I'm just going to live off the land. Yeah. I'm not going to work a job. I'm going to be...
Going off-grid.
Whatever, yeah. I'm going off-grid completely.
Yeah. That's
okay,
fair.
cool.
Yeah.
So if you have a garden or you're raising animals, like, you have to get up at a certain time.
Yes.
You have to know what seasons to plant what seeds. Yes. You have to know what type of soil. It's systems.
And everything. God has systems.
In
yes.
everything.
Yes.
And God didn't just create everything just in one moment.
Yeah.
No, he created this day. This day.
Yes, that's
this
true,
day.
babe.
This day.
There's
this
order.
is your role. All right? You're going to live in this area. You're going to live in the water. You're going to live on land. You're going to do this. So everything has a system. So why do we think that we can just be, you know what I mean? Like,
one with the earth, whatever. So if you're doing that, that's cool. Like, I got respect for you because you know what's good for you and you know what works for you. That does not work for us. We're very hard workers. Education is very important to us. So if I was going to fully homeschool them, and again, I never say I'm never doing nothing, because I listen to the unction of the Holy Spirit and we move and groove according to that. But right now, I don't feel like full time doing that is our call. And Yeah. Rigor is important to me, but I think sometimes the definition of rigor in the traditional school setting is how hard can we make it so that everybody fails. At least that's how UT treated us.
Not for real.
Hook 'em. But I feel like rigor should be how deep can you go? Like, we have an artist in our family. She loves to draw. She loves to, or not even that. I won't even focus on her drawing. She loves to do gymnastics. She taught herself gymnastics. So for us, we're like, okay, that cartwheel, we were at our friend's house. He's like, dang, y'all kind of harsh on her, but we know her ability.
Yes.
And so how far can you go? How much better can you get? How much can you research to master your gifts more? You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, that's what rigor looks like. So y'all just be praying, because we just said a lot and we've got to figure it out. But I think as intentional Christian parents, that is what it takes. You can't just do the default thing to do and expect for your kids to come out.
Expect a different result.
Exactly. You can't do that's real good. You can't do the default thing and expect a different result. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. And so that's kind of why we're doing it. And we're okay. I'm okay with switching things, changing things up. I'm okay. I don't answer to nobody. If somebody say, dang, girl, you switching schools again? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do have a daughter that change is hard for her. Ironically, she is the one that we are making the changes for. Because I also don't want my kids under I want them to be able to operate under high stress. But what's the high stress for? If the high stress is you got to figure out how to make this happen, cool. But if the high stress is it's a lot of foolishness going on around you in class and you can't even function, that's unnecessary. And I just, the 40-hour week thing, I don't believe our kids are going to have to be employees. So y'all not going to be.
Man, and just me learning and being more educated in life and finances and entrepreneurship and business and adulting.
Yeah.
It's like school sets you up to be a great worker. And that's fine.
And that's it, yeah.
That's fine. It's like, okay, I want my kids to have great discipline. I want them to be able to show up and fulfill their duties. But also, the school system is setting up people to work a 40-hour week, to not have an entrepreneurial mind.
Or their own mind in general.
But
I think that's where my deep conviction is coming from, because I'm believing that we're breaking that off and our kids are going to be able to walk into something completely different. We're going to make them get jobs and work for somebody so that they can know what it feels like. But I think when you said that, babe, I thought about the fact that another reason why I feel like we've got to find a way to make their schooling more flexible. There's so much for our kids to do here. We live on land. We have business that we're running. There's so much that we need their help with and that they could benefit from. They could be making money before they graduate. graduate, like
before high school,
before middle school.
Yeah.
Even there's so many beautiful things for our kids to partake in. There's so much that I just want to teach them, and I need them here with me. I guess we're kind of answering our question about what direction we should go. And we don't have to make the permanent decision right now, even if it's like, we start with something, and then once we get our eggs in a row with all the businesses and stuff, we can move to something else. But we want our kids more than I give them to somebody else. That's what it comes down to. And so that was a lot, y'all. I guess we really needed to get that off our chest. I hope that wasn't a waste of your time. But the other thing that we're struggling with that kind of goes with this is, how do we raise our kids in light of the LGBTQIA? I think that's what it is right now. It's the messaging is I'm not talking about it's every. I'm talking about the messaging is everywhere. We can't watch a single show on Netflix. I'm talking about kids shows on Netflix without the messaging and what I mean is by society trying to we talked about this earlier.
I said it's a difference between acceptance and normalizing things.
Yes.
Versus forcing us to agree with it.
Yeah.
So I feel like society is they want us to.
They're trying to force us to accept it and agree with it.
Yes,
the normalizing. Yes. I thought the normalizing I was bothered by, but I'm not anymore, because the reality is it is normal now.
It's
normal, right? And so it's a part of. It's just where we are.
Yeah.
Right. But the acceptance, what. We don't even let our kids watch a bunch of shows about boyfriend, girlfriend. So please don't come at us with y'all are homophobic. No.
I'm not.
I have no interest in Sally kissing her boyfriend on television. My children are 8, 5, and 4. I want them dwelling on things that are appropriate for their age. And in my opinion, it is not appropriate for their age. So can you imagine when they're watching a show? Now I also have to break down the LGBTQIA community and I have to break down homosexuality and all. I didn't know I was going to have to do all this at 5 or 8, years old. And if you're wondering our viewpoint on all of this, I would recommend you Google, or not even Google, just look in the Bible. What it says in there is what we believe. Here is where I feel like we differ from maybe mainstream Christianity or traditional intentional Christianity and parents like that. I believe, and we say this to our children, I do believe that people who identify with this community, I do believe that they deserve the rights that they deserve. And so you may be, and what helped me with this was in college when the professor was like, y'all need to be very careful about what you consider right and what is considered righteous. I was like, yo. It challenged me because we were talking about voting and it challenged me. I believe as believers we should vote for what we feel is righteous, which is very challenging on either end in the United States. But what you think is right, because this is a human. And this is what he said that got me. He said, because the moment we start taking rights away from humans, you better believe those that just received their rights are right next in line. And he said, I'm talking to you, black people. I'm talking to you, women. And I was like, yo, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
and so when we're talking to our children, we will say that, because that's obvious. This is a human. We're supposed to love people. And so we believe that and I'm going to beat that thing to the ground when it comes to our children. We love everybody. Like, bottom line.
Yes.
But we do believe the Bible is correct on that. And so
I can love you and not agree with a decision that you make.
Yeah. 100%. And I know
I try to keep it as simple as that.
But people don't believe that's simple. Like, that's a statement that some people that identify in that community, they find offensive.
If I can't love you and agree with the decision you make, well, so be it.
And so it's an ongoing challenging conversation, because we'll be in public and kids will be kids and they'll say, well, is she a girl or a boy? And they're genuinely confused.
Yeah.
They're genuinely confused. They're like, well, is she a girl or a boy? Like, she sound like, or the ponies. We were watching My Little Pony, and our oldest was like, well, see, that's a girl, but she sounds like a boy. So I guess on My Little Pony, the pony is gay. The pony, because she got pink hair. Her mom was like, oh, come over here, get your neck. She's like, mom, y'all, and she has a deep voice, and it's a whole, and I'm just like, okay, at the end of the day, I'm confused. And can you imagine? It's already hard breaking down complex things for your children. And then, like, I mean, not complex, but just like, oh, where do babies come from? That used to be the hardest question to answer for your children. And now it's just like all these things. And so we're just praying for wisdom and guidance on how do we talk about these things? How do we talk about, you got to talk about sex earlier than ever. We probably need to have a conversation about pornography now. Yeah. Because that comes up, you know, everywhere. And it's just really difficult. And I know that y'all are right there with us in the trenches. I pray that you're right there with us in the trenches trying to navigate these difficult topics. I think this leads me to like the whole church thing. So raising kids that love the Lord, but also love the church without them being churched out.
Love by the church? What do you mean by the church? Like the building?
Bride of Christ. Oh, no.
Or the people
of God, but also being in the building. Because we so quick to be like, well, the building ain't the church. We get it, honey. But the people that are the church, they in the building. So you not there. So you not loving the church because you ain't there. You ain't in the building. And so I think back in the day, the hard part was so many people were church. They were raised in church. You know, we in the church every time the church doors are open. And I said I didn't want my kids to feel like that. But also now, I don't feel like that's our struggle. I feel like our struggle is we ain't in the building enough. Yeah. And so just navigating that, like, how do I get my kids to prioritize the church? And I think for us, like, for instance, we went with some family to Great Wolf Lodge yesterday, and we could have stayed or, you know, got a room or whatever, but then it would have made it more difficult to come to church this morning. And so we went to the function within our head, we have to prioritize church.
Yeah. That's true. Unconsciously. Well, I did unconsciously. Yeah, like I knew we was going to have to leave by a certain time.
To get in the bed. And I think, too, like, as far as them not being burnt out by religion, I think the biggest thing with that is them seeing us live it out. I think for me that was huge growing up, is that it was never just a thing we did, it was who we were. So, and I think that's from seeing, like, watching my dad go to the prison, watching us pray at home, watching, like...
it wasn't just Sunday or
Sunday
when we was at this building, we act a certain way or we do things a certain way. It's like, if you ain't reading your Bible at home, if your kids don't see you reading your Bible at home or praying at home,
it's not real to them.
It's not. It won't be real to them. And I don't want that. And so I think that is the balance where it's like, yes, we do prioritize church. Yes, we don't get to go to, like, because we don't get to go to birthday parties during church. That's hard. That's a hard stance to make. When someone has a birthday party and it is during church hours, we buy a gift, we drop the gift off, but we don't get to attend the birthday party. Or what we did was, there was a family that we loved that they had a birthday party during church, and they said, I said, hey, we can't make it because we have church. And so they're like, oh man, you know, but they said, hey, do you guys want to come over after and hang out? Sure, we can do that. Yeah, a bit.
That's not a problem, you know, but we prioritize church, and being a family that was a ministry, and like we're pretty much a ministry family. I want to be sensitive to the fact to where, like, I want them to love being at church, you know, so I want their friends to be there. But that's another reason why it has to be a priority. Like, because we want to raise them up in the community. And so I want them to see us doing community with the people that we go to church with on Sundays. So it's not just like we going to check a box. So we're going to see our people. Like, it should feel like how you feel on, you know, holidays when you get to see your family. Like, it should feel like that. Like, oh, okay, it's a 2-for-1, you know? And so I think that's why we've been intentional trying to get them around like-minded churches where they feel comfortable and stuff, you know? And the last thing, and the most important thing, I feel like, not the most important thing, but the last thing, but it's a huge for me personally, is like, stewarding their gifts. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, when my kids leave my home, regardless of what direction we decide to go with school, regardless of what we decide to do with anything, or the mistakes our kids are going to need counseling from us raising them. Everybody does. But I want them to know, like, I want them to know God, who God made them to be, and I want them to be confident in operating in those gifts.
Definitely. Because if you lack in confidence in who you are or what your gifts are, then you can't be utilized by God to the capacity that you could be used.
So there's a scripture, Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And yes, this is talking about training up a child in the way, like the ways of the Lord, but I think also train up a child in the way they should go. Like your child should not leave your home not knowing what they can hang their hat on. And so that, like, they're gonna have to obviously refine it, and they'll, you know, start at it, stop at it, get disappointed, whatever. But I want them to know kind of, this is your niche, baby. This is your lane. Like, this is your, and so I think that's every parent's job. Yeah, that's kind of like my life's work of, like, I want to see everybody doing that, but my kids especially. So even now, like when they're babies, we're looking at it and we're thinking like, hey, you know, this could be your thing.
So since we on that verse, but like even thinking about training.
Yeah.
So when you're training someone, it's close proximity. So I know.
That's good.
Okay, so if I'm training athletes, I'm a coach. If I'm training an athlete, I know, okay, this is what they need to get better at. This is what they struggle at. For this calling or for this position, they have to be excellent at this. So if one of our children desires to be a vocalist, say if they code at singing, I don't know, that would be straight from God. But I'm just saying, so you know, okay, this is what we need to work on. You need to spend this amount of time working on singing, this amount of time training, developing, and if we're not building a relationship with them, I'll be ineffective as a coach. I'll be ineffective as a trainer. I won't be able to train them up to the level that they need to be if we don't have that relationship.
But even when you said that, when you said we got to be in close proximity, that took me back to even the school thing, the importance of spending as much. Because even beyond that, even say you need public school because you, like you said, your life is set up like that, or you need 40 hours a week. Yeah. Because people out here working this stuff.
Yeah.
What is the outside time looking like?
True.
What is the intentional time looking like? You know, how can I be in proximity so I can train you up? Training is a consistent in and out thing until and training eventually becomes your default, right? Like how you train, that becomes your default. And so how am I helping you that when you leave here, your default is to be productive, your default is to, you know what I mean, to exercise your gifts and to produce and not just be a consumer? How do I train you up in that way? And so we tired just like y'all as parents, and it's a lot, and I do think there's more resistance than ever before, and I think every generation felt like, oh, it's more resistance than ever before. I don't think nobody would argue that it's wild out here. Oh, social media, we didn't even talk about that. We're constantly like, we don't just let our kids, they'll try it, but they don't get to just go in and and just free scan or just grab their tab. If they do, we like, hold up.
Yeah. What you think this is?
Like, what? And so, just in light of the internet has changed the game for everybody. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, and they were talking about how outside used to be, like getting in these streets, like joining gangs and stuff like that. And so parents didn't know what their kids was doing outside, but that's when they were, that's when they got caught up in drugs and all that stuff. But now outside is this. Outside is the phone. And so you have to be careful what your kids are exposing to. We pushing that thing off as long as possible. You can call my kids weird. You can do what you want to do. Our desire is not to shelter our kids, but in a way it is. It's our job. It's to guard them.
It's to guard and protect them.
It is. Exactly. So we're guarding our gates. We're guarding just like we guard our home, we have precautions in place if somebody ever comes up. And I think that's a thing that parents are getting lackadaisical on, is like, if somebody attacks our home, you finna...
Oh, yeah, they just have some problems.
Yes. And so, but when the enemy attacks our home, we act like it's not a big deal, or we're too tired to go protect our kids.
Or society attacks our home.
Yes.
Because if somebody run up in my house and they ain't one of the guests, they're going to have some problems immediately. But when society does it, it's like, I have to like bend over backwards, or I have to
be politically
adjust
correct,
to it.
Yeah,
it's like, nah, like, if this is a problem, you eradicate it.
Yes. Do whatever you have to do.
And do what's best as soon as possible.
And that's what the Bible talks about, how we have to be so wise, right? And harmless, but also like sharp with our thinking. So it's like, if I know that my children's upbringing depends on me being available for them, then I need to be a good steward of my gifts. I need to be praying, God, give me a job where I can be with my children. God, give me creativity to create a stream of income that's going to allow me to raise them the way I want to raise them. Because like you said, when there's an attack, either one, we're too tired, or the honest to God truth, a lot of us are just too distracted. We would rather be in our room in peace scrolling because it's easier for us. So we just gonna let them scroll and do what they gotta do so them kids don't bother us. But it's like, no, if somebody came in here and robbed me, I would not be too tired nor too busy. But the enemy is constantly robbing our kids every day, but we too tired and too busy.
Robbing them with joy, peace, freedom.
Yes, and that's I'm glad you said that, babe, because when you hear someone talking and you are judging them and you're thinking their kids are too sheltered, because we know we don't control how our kids come out. At the end of the day, when our kids become grown, they got to make their own decisions and they got to answer Jesus for themselves. And if they feel like anything I did, you held me back from that, but that's between you and Jesus. I did what I could do with what I had and the best that I could do. That's your business. But I do feel like that joy, peace, the fruits of the Spirit, that's my responsibility to show them this is available to you. Like when I'm telling you you can't have a cell phone, it's not because I don't want to buy you an iPhone. It's not because I don't want you to see it. I don't want you to be addicted to pornography because there's so much more peace when you don't have that battle. You're my child. I don't want you to go to war. I don't want you to go to war. I know you're going to have your own battles and the things that you got to work through with God. I don't want you to go to war. I don't want your mind to be so perverted that at 10 years old, you can't dream the way that God designed you to dream as a child. And I think that's the stuff we sleeping on as Christian parents. Like, I really do.
Yeah, because the devil ain't just walking around with horns on his head with a pitchfork, like telling, like going around and say, sin. No, it's society.
Subtle.
It's subtle. The devil is sneaky and cunning, right? The devil gonna be, you know what I mean? He ain't gonna be out and about. It's gonna be a cunning way to try to like manipulate people.
Yeah, so I think the encouragement in that is do not give up, do not grow weary in doing good, right? Like do not, like in due season, I'm believing we're going to see a harvest. And to me, that harvest is going to be our children sitting around our table, walking and operating in their gifts. They ain't got to be perfect. They can make mistakes. And I want them to feel like they can come to us if they do make mistakes, like that we are a safe place. And that's hard too. I'm working on that because I want to be, I feel like you're better at that. They can come to you with anything. But I want them to feel like we're a safe place for them, but to me, the fruit and the harvest is so worth it. And so if it's 2 decades, and it's 2 decades, right? We got 4 kids, so I was telling her, I was like, if you really look at it, it's a little less than 2 decades, because we don't even believe. So when our kids get 16, if my kid comes to me and says, hey, I feel like I want to go to this school, you got me at this school, I feel like I would thrive better at this school, I would push aside my work and say, okay, sit down. Present to me why you think this is the case. And if you think I'm lying, I'm the same child that went to my parents at 17 years old and said, you think I should date at 18, I think I should date at 17. Here's a diagram of why. And they listened to me. And I would do the same for my child, and I want them to know that.
Yes, because at the end of the day, even if we say, you know what, nah, we disagree, we ain't going to let you do that. They're developing a communication skill that most people lack, that I lacked. So they're developing that communication skill and their creative skill.
So it's working. Either way, it's working.
Yeah, so like they're gonna be a better human from it, period. They're gonna be a better leader. They're gonna be a better employee. They're gonna be a better entrepreneur simply by us putting our pride down and letting them like, hey, you ain't coming at me wrong. I want to hear your opinion. Yes,
I do want to hear your opinion. I absolutely 100% want to hear my children's opinions. But that goes back to say, when we have 4 kids, depending on how many kids you have, you really are only raising children for 2 decades of your life. And I said 2, and then I thought about the 16, because really, we're only in the trenches raising them. And I know when they're teenagers, it's a whole nother battle. I don't know. I hate when people think they know and they haven't been through that season. But what I'm saying is I know there's different obstacles when you're a teenager.
It's a different.
But I think the reality is by the time they're 16, the heavy duty raising is over.
True.
They making decisions. They gonna make decisions for themselves. You know, we pray that they're good decisions.
We're more guiding them.
Yeah, like we're coaching them. At that point, we're just like, hey, what, like we doing this together. Say, like, man, let me show you.
Your grades are slipping, dog. You need to do your work.
But I can't grab your hand and write your grades for you. But I can't take your phone and your car keys.
Yeah. And so it's like, hey, I'm gonna steer you.
Right.
I'm gonna steer you.
Constantly doing this.
if you keep on reverting off track,
it's on you.
I can't tell you where to go, but I can help guide you.
Yeah, so we're not trying to raise perfect kids. We're trying to be good stewards of the gifts that God gave us, and He gave them to us. And so it's our job, it's our responsibility over anything else, and we live by this. And you can ask our friends or whatever. Like in this season, it's a lot of physical, demanding, like labor and work, and so there's a lot of places we can't go, a lot of things we can't do because they require so much of us. They need us to do everything. In the next season, it might be something else, but we adjust our lives accordingly, and we will continue to do that because it'll be over eventually, and we're gonna be back to dating.
Yeah, no, that's good though.
Yeah,
but this is like raising children is difficult.
Yeah,
but it's a blessing that we pray for and ask for.
We ask for this.
So I don't know the verse verbatim, but to much is given, much is required.
Much will be required. Yeah.
So it's like the same thing. So it's like, okay, if you want this promotion at this job, okay, boom. If you want these kids, this is what's the requirement to do it at a level that you desire. At a high level. So I'm not trying to be mediocre. So if I want to be
so why would I raise mediocre kids?
Yeah, so I ain't trying to have no basic kid. I want to have a kid that's excellent.
That's a good point.
At who they are. And so I have to be an excellent person and parent. And
not perfect, but striving for excellence.
Yes, that's strive for.
We're about to close out, I promise, but this is so good because everybody's call is different. And if you're watching a podcast about raising a Christian family, I want to encourage you because your call is a high calling and what God is calling you to do your kid, to raise your kids. And so for us, studying, reading books, listening to podcasts, all that's required of us because we want to do things differently. And just because somebody's saved and how they raise their kids is one way, but you feel this conviction of the Holy Spirit to go deeper or do something deeper, that's because that's what God calls you to do, right? And it's not on us, and I'm always trying to be careful not doing a work-based salvation because God can do anything, right? Like He can rip. I've watched God have raise a child out of a single mom that child is so powerful and anointed, more so than a Christian home that kid had everything that they ever wanted or desired. So be encouraged in that too. When you're doing the best you can with what you have, God sees that and He's in the midst of that, and you know what I mean? Like He ultimately is their Heavenly Father and He loves them more than we could ever love our children. So we have peace in that too. We're not over here trying to think we control everything in our kids' life. We know better than that, right? Like we've learned that. So yeah, that's it.
That was a lot.
It was a lot to digest. Y'all let us know in the comments what y'all think about the school thing, what we should do, and let us know what your challenges are as a parent, because we want to be praying for y'all. I love praying over my community and the YouTube community, and so yeah. Love y'all. We'll see you in our next video.